Chess is a board game for two players, called white and black, each controlling an army of chess pieces in their color, with the objective to checkmate the opponent's king. It is sometimes called international chess or Western chess to distinguish it from related games such as Xiangqi, Chinese chess, and Shogi, Japanese chess. The recorded history of chess goes back at least to the emergence of a similar game, Chaturanga, in 7th century India. The rules of chess as they are known today emerged in Europe at the end of the 15th century, with standardization and universal acceptance by the end of the 19th century. Today, chess is one of the world's most popular games played by millions of people worldwide. Chess is an abstract strategy game that involves no hidden information and no elements of chance. It is played on a chessboard with 64 squares arranged in an 8x8 grid. At the start, each player controls 16 pieces, 1 king, 1 queen, checkmating the opponent's king, i.e. threatening it with inescapable capture. There are also several ways a game can end in a draw. Organized chess arose in the 19th century. Chess competition today is governed internationally by FIDE, the International Chess Federation. The first universally recognized world chess champion, Wilhelm Steinitz, claimed his title in 1886, Ding Liren is the current world champion. A huge body of chess theory has developed since the game's inception. Aspects of art are found in chess composition, and chess in its turn influenced Western culture and the arts, and has connections with other fields such as mathematics, computer science, and psychology. One of the goals of early computer scientists was to create a chess-playing machine. In 1997, Deep Blue became the first computer to beat the reigning world champion in a match when it defeated Garry Kasparov. Today's chess engines are significantly stronger than the best human players and have deeply influenced the development of chess theory. However, chess is not a solved game. Rules. The rules of chess are published by FIDE, Fédération Internationale d'Échecs, International Chess Federation, chess's world governing body, in its handbook. Rules published by national governing bodies, or by unaffiliated chess organizations, commercial publishers, etc., may differ in some details. FIDE's rules were most recently revised in 2023. Setup. Setup at the start of a chess game. Chess sets come in a wide variety of styles. The Stanton pattern is the most common, and is usually required for competition. Chess pieces are divided into two sets, usually light and dark colored, referred to as white and black, regardless of the actual color or design. The players of the sets are referred to as white and black, respectively. Each set consists of 16 pieces, 1 king, 1 queen, 2 rooks, 2 bishops, 2 knights, and 8 pawns. The game is played on a square board of 8 rows, called ranks, and 8 columns, called files. By convention, the 64 squares alternate in color and are referred to as light and dark squares. Common colors for chessboards are white and brown, or white and green. Initial position. First row, rook, knight, bishop, queen, king, bishop, knight, rook. Second row, pawns. Thus, on white's first rank, from left to right, the pieces are placed as follows: rook, knight, bishop, queen, king, bishop, knight, rook. 8 pawns are placed on the second rank. Black's position mirrors white's, with an equivalent piece on the same file. The board is placed with a light square at the right-hand corner nearest to each player. The correct positions of the king and queen may be remembered by the phrase "queen on her own color," i.e. the white queen begins on a light square, and the black queen on a dark square. In competitive games, the piece colors are allocated to players by the organizers. In informal games, the colors are usually decided randomly, for example by a coin toss, or by one player concealing a white pawn in one hand and a black pawn in the other, and having the opponent choose. Movement. White moves first, after which players alternate turns, moving one piece per turn, except for castling, when two pieces are moved. A piece is moved to either an unoccupied square or one occupied by an opponent's piece, which is captured and removed from play. With the sole exception of en passant, all pieces capture by moving to the square that the opponent's piece occupies. Moving is compulsory, a player may not skip a turn, even when having to move is detrimental. King. White's king begins the game on e1. Black's king is opposite at e8. Each king can move one square in any direction, example White's king can move from e1 to d1, d2, e2, f2, or f1. Rook. Each player has two rooks, formerly also known as castles, which begin the game on the corner squares a1 and h1 for white, a8 and h8 for black. A rook can move vertically or horizontally to any unobstructed square along the file or rank on which it is placed. Bishop. Each player has two bishops, and they begin the game at c1 and f1 for white, c8 and f8 for black. A bishop can move to any unobstructed square on the diagonal on which it is placed. Therefore, each player has one bishop that travels only on light-colored squares and one bishop that travels only on dark-colored squares. Queen. Each player has one queen, which combines the powers of the rook and bishop and is thus the most mobile and powerful piece. The white queen begins at d1, the black queen at d8. Knight. Each player has two knights, and they begin the game on the squares between their rooks and bishops, i.e., at b1 and g1 for white and b8 and g8 for black. The knight has the trickiest move, an L shape of two steps, first one square like a rook, then one square like a bishop, but always in a direction away from the starting square. A knight at e4 could move to f2, g3, g5, f6, d6, c5, c3, or d2. The knight has the unique ability to jump over any other piece to reach its destination. It always moves to a square of a different color. Capturing. The king, rook, bishop, queen, and knight capture enemy pieces in the same manner that they move. For example, a white queen on d3 can capture a black rook at h7 by moving to h7 and removing the enemy piece from the board. Pieces can capture only enemy pieces. Pawns. Each player has 8 pawns, which begin the game on the second rank closest to each player, i.e., white's pawns start at a2, b2, c2, and so on, while black's pawns start at a7, b7, c7, and so on. The pawns are unique in several ways. A pawn can move only forward, it can never retreat. It moves differently than it captures. A pawn moves to the square directly ahead of it but captures on the squares diagonally in front of it. Example, a white pawn at f5 can move to f6 but can capture only on g6 or e6. An unmoved pawn has the option of moving one or two squares forward. This is the reason for another peculiar option, called en passant, that is, in passing, available to a pawn when an enemy pawn on an adjoining file advances two squares on its initial move and could have been captured had it moved only one square. The first pawn can take the advancing pawn en passant, as if it had advanced only one square. An en passant capture must be made then or not at all. Only pawns can be captured en passant. The last unique feature of the pawn occurs if it reaches the end of a file. It must then be promoted to, that is, exchanged for a queen, rook, bishop, or knight. Guys, I hope you find this amazing chronicle about chess game interesting. Please don't forget to like, comment and share. Subscribe to my channel for more amazing ideas.